my name is Jeff Pagano and welcome to Harpin on Rugby, where with the help of some fellow fans, I get the chance to harp on what's going on with Leinster, Ireland and the wider rugby world. First up joining me is someone earning cap number 57. A warm welcome to Mr. Conor Cronin.
Great to be back again. Thanks a million.
Good to have you, sir. And our second guest is the owner-operator of Post to Post Sport. This is his 19th pod appearance to go with a lot of written articles in the past. Hello to Mr. Kieran Duffy.
Yeah, if we're talking overall contributions, including pod cameos and things, I'm on 184 contributions. So
there we go.
Who knows, maybe 200 before the end of the year. I'm not going to set that target, but I'm a team player. I'm willing to sit on the bench if I need to. But yeah, maybe 200 by this time next year. Who knows? It's
definitely doable for sure. All of which brings us to our final thoughts from the match, starting with Conor.
Yeah, look, we've said it within the main chat, that Ulster were very unlucky. The scoreline doesn't necessarily reflect the quality that they brought with them and the challenge that they put up to us and the disruption they created to prevent us scoring. And I think that, had they kept Izuchukwu on, that would have been massive for them. If they hadn't needed to use him at 5 and had been able to keep him at 6 and have 2 regular second rows, that changed everything again. But you play the team that's in front of you. You do what you do in front of the people who are there, and the result is really all that matters. I'd have taken a win by 1. My heart mightn't have dealt with it, but I would have taken it in the end. And the important thing was getting a win and putting plans in place for getting to South Africa. With reports that some of the lads left first thing this morning and are already there, making sure that they have time to settle before they hit training. Probably some of them tomorrow, and the rest on Tuesday. That's the big thing. There's some really bright sparks within that game. There's some really positive moments, some players who absolutely trying their best to put the hurt of a couple of weeks ago behind them and show what they can do. I want to see more of that this coming week. It's going to be a much different challenge, but like I say, job done. Let's move on to South Africa.
Absolutely. Kieran?
I think we look at how competitive the URC has become. I mean, a couple of seasons ago, regardless of maybe not doing it in the playoffs, but Leinster would have, back before it was the URC, when it was the Pro 14 or whatever number it was after it, Leinster would top the table with relative ease. And then the playoffs maybe wouldn't always go our way, but we'd always be top of the table. This is the first time in many seasons, I think since about 2016 or 17, that Leinster haven't actually topped the regular season table. So that's an awful long time. We're long past the time of being 4 in a row. So sometimes Leinster are going to win games without blowing teams away and being by far the best side. I think ultimately that'll stand to us. We talked about how the South African teams joining will stand to Irish rugby in terms of just boosting our quality overall. I think everyone has to play a bit better now in the league. I was writing a piece about maybe they'll look at something like destination playoff series. I don't think that'll necessarily be it being held in one European country, but rather alternating between South Africa and Europe. I wonder if they'll kind of have a destination final, but that might be something they look at. Then again, it's the nature of the competition. Everyone has to travel. I mean, we've talked about how Leinster have been bitten at times by having the South African series in the wrong time. And, if Leinster had picked up 1 or 2 points, then we wouldn't be against in our tour to South Africa. We wouldn't be going down to play Bulls. They'd be coming up to play us, and that changes the dynamic completely. So, yeah, look, it's there's a lot to be happy about. It wasn't a performance. I think in terms of Ulster, they could be happy with a lot. And maybe they probably weren't going to win the league this season. They were probably unlucky to not win the Irish Shield this season, which might have been, which might have given them a bit of a boost. But they have every chance now of based on this performance, they have every chance of saying, look, we're a good team. We can put plenty more into this next season, and doing very well. So yeah, look, I think it's a case of job done. I think Ross Byrne, he was under a bit of pressure to do well, especially when the winner, not that we were guaranteed to win this game, but the winner would be going down to South Africa. That's an entirely different setup. So he was under a lot of pressure. He did fairly well. Love Sam Prendergast's cameo. Again, I'd love to see him get more time at 10 next season. Myself and Connor were talking in the stands there in the RDS against Connacht that, Sam Prendergast puts on a bit of muscle. He could be the starting 10 by next Christmas for Leinster. And there's obviously a conversation to be had about, look, Leinster have 4 fly halves at the moment, and some younger fellas, what's going to happen with them? Maybe one of them has to go. I think Sam Prendergast certainly shouldn't be the one to go. But yeah, look, job done. Happy enough with it, and good to see Leinster build a bit of a score as well, because that's something that hasn't happened as much. That's something, there was a bit of luck involved. But that's something that hasn't happened as much. I mean, you could look at 3 of those tries that we got on the day. They were fairly clinical rugby. They were good counter-attacking, and sometimes that's what you need to do. I mean, knockout rugby, it's all about winning the game. It's not about playing attractive rugby, and I think that's something Leinster have been afraid to do in the past, win a game a little bit ugly. So yeah, look, job done, but Ulster have plenty to be happy about in that performance. I think they'll be a very dangerous team next season.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so now just a quick chat about 2 Leinster players in particular. Now, we've mentioned them many times before already on this pod, but this is kind of the point. When you go back over this portion of the season, the knockout matches in particular, when we've had success more often than not, you can draw a straight line from it to either Jamison Gibson Park, James Lowe, or often both. Now, that's not to say there hasn't been fine performances from others. We've had Joe McCarthy, Caelan Doris, Jordan Larmour, all impressing, for example. I suppose what I'm asking you is just how important have their contributions been to us? Starting with yourself, Kieran.
Yeah, they're massively important. I mean, I remember saying I was on the pod for the game against Ospreys when we were actually lining up to play Ulster, and saying, look, that's an important game that we probably need to win, and maybe if we would have had a home semi-final. But at the same time, by no means should Gibson Park and James Lowe be playing the week before a European Cup final. I mean, they had to be rested. They were 2 players that you did have to cotton wool. I mean, looking at James and Gibson Park, I mean, I think he's turned into one of the best scrum halves in the world. I don't think anyone would have really expected that necessarily when he signed, but he's been super for Leinster and Ireland. He's our playmaker. I think a lot of the talk around who's the best fly half has revolved around who can play well with Gibson Park, because he's that important. His ability to spot a pass. I used the example of, was it in the last 16, the European Cup against Leicester? There are 2 occasions, I think he scored a hat-trick in that game, in fact, so 3 occasions, he was just able to spot a gap and say, right, this is on, I'm going to take this chance. He's not afraid to go into contact. He's a scrum half that seems to kind of love playing different styles of rugby as well. And maybe in the modern game, it's the way it is that your fly half, like traditionally for Ireland and Leinster, Sexton would have been the playmaker, as you like. We're probably not going to have a fly half for a while who can be the kind of leader he was. So it's really important to have one of your out halves to be that kind of player. And Gibson Park, yeah, he's a spark. He can make things happen. He reads the game so well, and that's really important because he has a split second to read. And that was maybe something we were critical about Ross Byrne not doing. He has a split second to read, right, ball's coming out. We know refs sometimes say 5 seconds to use it, and that was mean it, but he seems to take it very literally. Right, the ball's out. Who can I pass to? Should I run myself? He makes the right decision most of the time. As for James Lowe, he's just the kind of poacher on the wing you need. I mean, he's I remember when he signed, I didn't know a whole lot about him, but just right from his first appearance with Leinster, he's just been really good with just finishing off moves. I mean, I'm not sure how many tries now he has with Leinster. You can see he does a lot during the game, and he's not simply a Chris Ashton who's going to stand 2 meters out for the try line and touch the ball down. He's much more important than that in overall play, but he makes things happen. You talk about the you talk about the try he scored today. There was maybe nothing on from, and he kicked it, and he puts in 2 good kicks, and ends up scoring it. I think in the Champions Cup final last year, he didn't have a great game, and that was probably because it was his first back from injury after a while. And maybe if he had had a couple of games, Leinster would have been able to win that match. But he's our biggest attacking threat. I think other teams know that. I think he likes that. I think he's not afraid to kind of be the man that's being targeted by other defenses. But having them both together, having Gibson Park as a really dangerous playmaker and attacking threat, he's not just someone who's going to start a play; he'll finish a play as well. And having James Lowe as someone who can finish things off, and then having whoever else is on the other wing at the moment. Jordan Larmour is doing really well, whether it's Hugo Keenan as fullback, Jimmy O'Brien, Kieran Frawley around them, Jamie Osborne, Henshaw, Ringrose, whoever else is around them. Having those two as here's 2 really dangerous players that the opposition need to be looking out for, it helps a lot, because we talked about in the past how maybe Ireland and Leinster were too reliant on Sexton in big games, and how teams knew if they could target Sexton and shut him down, then Leinster and Ireland aren't going to be as dangerous. Now Leinster and Ireland have 2 really dangerous attacking players. So obviously, I think they've been crucial. I think they will be crucial again in that South African series, in the November internationals and the Six Nations. It's probably great as well for younger players. Like, you look at Cormac Foley, he has Jameson Gibson Park, one of the best scrum halves in the world, to learn from. You look at the likes of younger backs that have those players to play with. You feel like they're going to learn an awful lot. So yeah, like they're probably our 2 most important players when it comes to playing a full strength team in the big games for Leinster.
Yeah, and I certainly wouldn't want to compare him to Chris Ashton, but if the situation came about for him to try a swan dive, I could definitely see him going for it and
Absolutely.
improving on it too. Connor, what do you make of it?
I'm a big fan of James Lowe. I think one of my favorite things about him is that he arrived and he looks at the team sheet one day and it's like, what are all these other names? I thought we all just played for Leinster, and it's like, oh well, that's my rugby club. It's like, oh, I don't have a rugby club. Who should I play? Who should I sign for his rugby club? And he apparently asked the question, who would nobody ever have played for? And that's why his rugby club is Clondalkin, where he shows up regularly and cheers on minis and is a big support to them as a club. And I think it's such a testament to him as a human being. But as a rugby player, James Lowe is, there was a lot of talk in the early days. Oh, but can he tackle? Yes, he can. His legs are very big. Can he run fast enough? Yes, he can. Any question that comes his way, he puts the doubters quiet. He points out and he shows just in his actions. He doesn't need some flashy PR guy putting up a video about it. It's like, well, next game, I'll go out and prove that the doubters are wrong and why I deserve to be here. I think as Kieran was saying, his ability across the field as well. He's not afraid to commit to a ruck. He's not afraid to protect a ball. He's not afraid to, if Gibson Park is buried in the bottom of a ruck somewhere, he wouldn't be afraid to reach in and take it out and play scrum half himself. He's very capable. He's got great work ethic. He really does. And I think he's such an asset to us. The man plays with a smile on his face all day, every day. The occasional time it slips off is when he's done something wrong himself and he's annoyed at himself, or if he's outraged by a decision, see 2 weeks ago in Tottenham. But he plays with a smile on his face the whole time. And that's infuriating to play against. It's like, what are you smiling at? Why are you looking at me like that? And you get angry at players like that who just laugh and smile at everything. And you're like, what am I missing? What have I done wrong that you're laughing? And like, he can put doubt in players' minds. And he's really, really good at it. As for Jamison Gibson Park, if Anton Dupont didn't exist, Jamison Gibson Park would be the best rugby player in the world right We were discussing in the stadium the other day, myself and my friend John Cummins, and he asked the question. He's like, okay, if DuPont is 1 and Gibson Park is 2, who's the third best scrum half in the world? And you kind of look and you're like, geez, they're very, very high bars. And who in the world is coming close to that? And like, it was a hard thing to say, well, maybe in his day, maybe Aaron Smith, or, maybe, but so-and-so doesn't play anymore. And John Cooney's very good, but he's not quite at the same level. And the way he plays is different anyway. And trying to figure out who's beyond. Like, I mean, you look ahead to the Lions tour next year and assume a clean bill of health for every player in every country. And I can't see past Gibson Park being the starting 9. But then you wonder, who's going to be the backup? Mitchell's all right, but he's not at the same level. And it's not like it was, a bunch of years ago when Warren Gatlin was saying, I'll pick Mike Phillips to start the game, and I'll pick Conor Murray to finish the game. And it's like, here are 2 players who play very, very similarly, and I will start with one and I will finish with the other, and we can stick to our game plan and we can get through things the way we want to get through them. Now, Gibson Park plays at such a standard. And as Kieran has pointed out, it's his decision-making. His decision-making is nearly always right. It's his support lines. It's how he marshals the fellas who are around them. It's the instructions he gives. It's the positions he wants. It's like, no, take 2 steps that way, and then I'm going to pass it to you so that when I go for this exit, I've got a cleaner angle for this box kick for what we actually want to achieve. And he takes a lot of control. He takes a lot of decision making on himself. And it's, last year, most of the decision making probably would have been Johnny Sexton's. This year, most of the decision making when he's on the pitch is Jamison Gibson Park. He's the one, I think, and I reckon he's probably telling his 10, whoever his 10 may be on a given day, here's what we're doing, here's what's going to happen. So let's, I think he's far and away one of the best players we have in the country, deserving of the central contract, deserving of being starting 9. And I think if he continues to play the way he is, he'll be deserving of being starting 9 for the Lions next year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the reason I ask is because it's, both of their contributions over the years have been immense. But just this particular part of the season, when you look back over it, the matches we've won, you take out their contributions and it's a much, much closer game. And then the matches we lost, they actually weren't playing for the most part, apart from obviously Toulouse. That's a high profile match. But then again, the one try, the first try that we let in was when James Lowe was off the pitch. And then of course you've got, like you say, Gibson Park going against the other super great worldie of a scrum half as well. So it's they're like we're getting contributions from all over as well, but it's just those 2 in particular at this part of the season, having both played in a Six Nations winning side as well, and featured put in a lot of minutes for them as well, to be still on the form, showing the form they're doing at this stage of the season.
The impact they have is so great. I mean, it's because they're playing for Ireland and making such a difference, because they're playing the big matches for Leinster and making such a difference. I think aside from yesterday, has James Lowe 2 other URC games this season? He's very
started late. Yeah.
Like it's just the difference he makes though when he is there is just, it's outstanding.
Absolutely, and long may it continue. Okay, so listen, we're just going to have a quick look ahead to next week. We're going to have a preview show. We're going to be talking a lot about it during the week. But now that I have the 2 of you on, starting with yourself, Conor, big semi-final down at Pretoria. What are you making of it?
It's massive. Look, the Bulls may not be happy with how they played at the weekend. They're certainly going to tighten some things up. I think Benetton have done us a huge favour because Benetton ran them hard and forced them to work harder maybe than they expected to work, meaning that they're going to be a little more tired, not as tired as jet lag tired or anything, but they will be a little bit more tired than maybe they expected to be. And I think the other favour Benetton have done for us is show us places where they can be exploited, show us places where we can hit at them and do a job. I think forget about our own video analysis from this week. Don't worry about watching the Ulster game back, lads. Watch the Benetton Bulls game. Let's start finding holes because they're there to be found.
Absolutely. Kieran?
Look, it's a massive ask. I mean, you're going down to the other end of a massive continent. It's one of my bugbears. People talking about Africa as if it's one country. I mean, it's actually takes up half the length of the world, and we're going to the very most southern end of it. So, it's something again. I talked about maybe destination playoffs would be looked at, but look, this is the situation everyone's in. If Munster win their semi-final, I think they'll be favourites because whoever wins between Bulls and Leinster will have to again make a long trip back up. But if Glasgow manage to win that, I think probably whoever's down in Bulls and Leinster will be favourites, but not as much as Munster would have been because this is going to be a very physical game. This is going to be a very competitive game. It's a lot. It's a big ask for Leinster. I think one we're capable of pulling off. But at the end of the day, hopefully everyone's fit for it. I know, as Conor was saying, some of the players are already there now. Some will be coming a little bit later. Some of the coaching staff. It's going to be a very intense week. Hopefully, it's an intense 2 weeks. Hopefully, we get the job done. But yeah, I'd agree. Look at what Benetton did. On paper, we're a better team than Benetton, so we should be able to do more. I mean, as well, I will point out that Benetton butchered an opportunity for a try, and they only lost by 7 points. They butchered opportunity in the first half. So that game could have gone extra time or could have gone the other way. I don't think Bulls are unbeatable, but I think they're going to be very difficult to beat. So, look, big ask. I'd hope for a really good 80-minute performance, and then whatever the result is, you just have to take it. But I don't think this game has much of an effect on the South Africa tour over the summer because it's such a different circumstances. I mean, there's been no time to settle in, really. Leinster have got there today and will have our Sunday as we're talking on this today. And they'll just have to settle in, go immediately, very intense. Regardless of what's happening, I think everyone's going to need a lie down on Sunday. But it's a big one, and I'd say I would call Bulls favourites just because they haven't had to travel. But at the end, that's the nature of the modern URC, and I think Leinster are capable of putting a good performance, but Bulls I definitely say are favourites for this one.
Yeah, I agree. It's a totally different scenario to the Ireland tour of South Africa. Although I have a funny feeling the South African press are going to be saying all week that they will be virtually playing the Irish team next Saturday.
Here we disrespected them about
exactly,
before they won 2 World Cups.
There's going to be more about that. Someone will say something in passing during the week, and that'll be all proportionally.
Maybe someone will say something on this podcast that the South Africa press picks up, and then you'll go viral. Maybe
they'll find something, or they might use AI with our voices or something. You never know.
I'm pretty sure 11 Leinster players have already said that they'll see somebody in a final. So, 12 Leinster players, yeah.
There you go. Okay, listen, that's brilliant, lads. We're going to leave it there. Many thanks again to Conor and Kieran for joining me. Hope to have you back on again soon. Thanks, lads.
Thanks,
cheers, guys.